Hey, hello! In today's video, we're going to be covering scene transitions. We're going to start it off by creating a singleton, which is going to sit above our game, and because it's a singleton, we get to use it no matter where we are in our game. And once that's been created, then I'll show you how to actually use it inside your scenes so that when you transition between one place to another, you can easily call the fade in and the fade out with just a couple functions. Let's go. Alright, let's create a new scene. I'm going to hit this plus button right here, and then I'm going to select other node. And for the parent node, let's just go with node. Create. And so let's rename this to scene transitions. And now I'm going to select this parent node. I'm going to hit Control A so that I can create a new node. And this one is going to be animation player. I see it right here. And I'm also going to create Control A, a color rect, like this. I'm just going to reorder this so that the color rect is on top of the animation player. And then I'm going to make sure that color rect is selected, go over to the anchor presets, make it full rect so that it covers the entire screen. And then I'm going to go over to the properties, change the color, and I'm going to click and drag this to make it black. So now with this being done, I want to create a canvas layer. So scene transitions, Control A, and then I'm going to type in canvas layer and select this one right here. And then I'm going to throw the color rect into the canvas layer, reorder the canvas layer up. And so what the canvas layer does is it lets you easily order stuff no matter where it is in the scene. And because this is going to be a singleton, this is going to be outside of whatever scene that we're running. And so the canvas layer is going to be one of the easiest ways for us to kind of manage at which layer this is going to be drawn. So I'm going to change this to canvas layer 20, and inside the layer right here in the inspector, this is also going to be 20, which means that anything inside layer 20 is going to be higher, or it's going to be drawn on top of anything that's less than the layer 20. So if I have my background, which is in layer 1, this black transition screen is going to be drawn on top of that. So let's click Scene Transitions and attach a new script. Right here, I'm going to go over and I'm going to create a prototype folder. I already have a prototype folder. I'm going to create a new folder inside here. You guys can call it a singleton folder, whatever. Prototype singleton. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to throw this script inside there. Create that. And also, I'm going to save this. And this is also going to go into my prototype folder, but you guys can save it into your singletons folder if you have one. Okay, so where was this? Prototype singleton. Alrighty, let's start to comment this out. Scene transitions singleton. And then this is going to be node references. And let's make a reference to our color rect, which I'm just going to call fade to black. And also I want to reference the animation player. So control, click, drag. A little bit of commenting, and now let's start with the function ready, past that. And I think we're only going to have two functions inside here. So one of them is going to be fade in, and the other one's going to be fade out. Function fade in returns void. Let's pass it for now. Function fade out returns void, and let's pass that as well. So now we kind of set up our basic script, but let's go back to 2D, just check out what this is. And inside our animation player, let's select this. Let's go over to the animation tab, which should open up, and let's create a new animation by selecting this, hitting new. I'm going to call this scene transition. And then right here, I'm just gonna maybe change this to 0.6 seconds. Which is the duration of the animation. I'm gonna go down here, and I realize that you can't see it because of the slime boy right here. So just give me a sec. Boom, boom. All right, let's change this to 0.1, and then make sure that this is on. And then I'm gonna use this to zoom into the timeline to make sure I can see my increments. So now we're kind of set up to start animating. I'm going to make sure that we start with black, and then we're going to go into transparent. So let's make sure that this 0.0 is selected right here, and then let's click on the fade to black. Let's go over to the color and we're gonna key this color property. I'm gonna hit create. And then maybe about like 0.1 or 0.2, it doesn't really matter. Let's also key it one more time, just so that we can have this increment where the screen is fully black, and we can change this later for the duration. And then let's go and at the very end of it, let's select this color. Let's go transparent like this. And then let's key this right here. And so we're going to go from black to black, and then it's going to start fading into transparent. So now let's go back to our script and let's take a look at our fade in function. When we're fading in, we want to go from black to transparent, which means that we can just call this animation and just do animation player dot play. And then we're going to do scene transition, and it's going to play forwards. And then when we're fading out, we want to do animation player dot play. And then this time it's going to be play backwards, and we're going to do scene transition, the same thing, except this time you're going to realize that it's going to start with the transparent screen and it's going to go slowly to black. And one thing that we need to do is we don't want to have the black screen always show no matter what. So right here, we're just going to do fade to black. And let's change the property to not visible, which we can do by just using the hide function. And then when it comes to actually showing it, we're going to do fade to black dot show, and this one as well, we're going to do fade to black to show. And then for here, let's have it so that after the await animation player dot animation finished, once the animation player finishes, then we're going to do fade to black, and we're going to hide it just so it doesn't get in the way of clicks or whatever. And we're going to do the same thing for this one as well, just like this. Awesome. We've got a simple animation that we can play. It's going to make the scene turn from dark to transparent, and we get to call it using these functions right here. The last thing we need to do is we need to go up to the project settings, and then we're going to go to globals. And I already have my scene transition in, but let's use the one that we created, yeah? So let's go here. Let's locate where we actually put our singleton, and it's going to be prototype singleton for me, and I'm going to select the scene, hit open, and then it's going to give me this name right here, and I'm going to add it. And then once we do this, this then means that we can use this as a singleton no matter where we are in our game. So I'm going to close that. You're going to see that I have two scenes that I just created, scene 1 and scene 2, and it's got a texture rect for the background and the player that I'm going to be moving around. Just showing you guys really quickly, this is what it looks like for me. And I want to transition from one scene to the other. Let's go from scene 1, and let's create something like an area 2D. Using Control A, create this, and then it's going to ask us for a collision shape. So I'm going to hit Control A right here and then do collision shape 2D, create that. Let's click right here. Let's make this, I think a rectangle shape is fine. I'm going to select the area 2D, press and hold Alt, and then I'm going to drag this over to right here. Okay, so now let's create a script on the scene. Let's do this. I'm going to create it inside our folder. Do it like this. And then let's have it so that on body entered, which is a signal that the area 2D has, we're going to do body entered and connect it to the top right here. I'm going to use this as a way to transition to scene 2. When the player enters this area, we're going to call our function so that we can transition scenes, right? So we're going to use getTree dot and then change scene to file for me. And I'm going to locate where my prototype folder is. It's going to be this one. And then I'm going to take the scene number 2 and throw it in right here. So then this warning right here is that the parameter body is never being used in the function, and I don't need to use this. So I'm just going to put an underscore right here, and that makes the error go away. And so now let's run this and see what happens. We know the collision shape is right here, right? And so it does work, but something weird happened with this debugger, and it's that during a physics callback, this causes undesired behavior we want to use with call deferred instead. We're going to do something like call deferred, and then what we're going to do is we're going to throw in the change scene to file, but let's make sure that we know what the argument is So I'm just going to copy this, paste it right here for argument 1, and it's going to be a method string name. And so then let's make this a string, just like this. And then this is the argument that we need to put in. And I think this should work. So let's give it one more shot, run scene 1, then we move over to scene 2, and it looks like it's working. And now let's make sure that our fade in works. So we enter this area, function ready, right? When we're entering this scene, we're gonna run scene transitions, and then we're gonna do fade in. If I can spell it, fade in. And so because it's a singleton, we can call it like this. We call what the singleton name is, and then we just run the function that's inside the singleton, which is so very nice and easy. And let's see if it works. You guys saw how it went black and then it faded in? Perfect, perfect, perfect. But let's also do that for scene 2 as well. So right here, I'm gonna create a script. I'm gonna go over right here, I'm gonna copy just this function right here. And let's paste this right here. And so now let's see if it fades in for both. So we're in scene 1 right now. It faded in, and then when we go over here, it also fades in when we enter the scene. Now all we have to do for scene 1 is now do a fade out. So that means that whenever we are transitioning out of a scene, we're gonna run scene transitions dot fade out. And it doesn't look like it's working really. It looks like it's fading in properly, but then it's cutting a little bit too short. We don't get to see the fade out. And the reason for this is we are running this, but we're not waiting for this to finish before we call this to transition scenes. So we have to make one tiny fix to our singleton, and what we want to do right here is we want to emit a signal. So we're going to go right here, we're going to do signals, and then we're going to do signal fade complete. And then we're gonna have to use this right here. Once our fade out is finished, we're gonna do fade complete dot emit. So that whenever we finish fading out, it's gonna send a signal to whatever is going to receive it. So back into scene 1, we call this function that has a signal emitter, and that means that we have to receive the signal. That means that right here, all we have to do is simply await scene transitions dot fade complete. And so now scene transitions is going to fade out. It's going to wait for the entire fade animation to complete, and then it's going to send out a signal for us. And we're not going to continue our code until we receive this signal. And then if we receive the signal, then we're going to change scenes. So let's take a look right here. We basically fade in from black to transparent, and then when we go, it's going to fade to black. Then as soon as we enter the scene, it's going to go from black to transparent. Let's try to see that one more time. Black to transparent, transparent to black, black to transparent. It's as easy as just running scene transitions fade in when you initialize your scene, and then when you are about to transition using onArea body entered, you're going to run your fade out function, and you're just going to wait for the transition to complete before you change your scene. Hopefully that was useful to you guys. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.